9:51 exactly. We're now joined by Chad Thomas, Organised crime expert, CEO of IRS Forensic Investigations. Morning, welcome to you. And the big question of the day is, did two South African brothers barely out of their teens pull off what may be the biggest Bitcoin heist of all time and escape with the equivalent of possibly 50 billion rands, 50 billion rands? This is the stuff that movies are made of, is it not? Good morning and welcome.
Good morning to you and to everybody that's watching, and thank you for asking me to join you this morning.
Lovely to have you on the show.
In answer to your question, no, this is not the stuff that movies are made of. And South Africa at the moment has this terrible reputation as being the epicenter of the worst crypto scams that have taken place in the last couple of years. One would expect it would have come from a place like Russia, where they have vast networks of underground hackers and black hat hackers who are looking to commit these massive crypto type scams. But in the last couple of years, South Africa has the reputation of producing some of the worst scams to date. It started with BTC Global, which was about 4 years ago. It was followed by Mirror Trading International, MTI, which was listed last year as being the worst crypto scam in history, and that's worldwide. Then late last year, we had the case involving Presidium and Imaginer. And now this year, we have the Africrypt case, which is the one that we're discussing today.
Okay, I understand that finally the brothers have engaged a lawyer, and what they are saying, for example, is, and I quote, "It wasn't us," says the brothers, "with no sign of the 50 billion rand they supposedly stole and ran away." There's talks in, via the grapevine that they're sitting somewhere in Dubai. That's part one of my question. And what is your interest in this case?
Okay, so it's very interesting that these cases all have a very similar pattern. With BTC Global, the blame was put onto a man by the name of Stuart Twain. He subsequently disappeared. Nobody knows whether he actually existed or not. With Mirror Trading International, it was slightly different. The person that was at the helm of that was a chap by the name of Johnny Steinberg. He disappeared, and he's still missing and purportedly in Brazil. With this particular case of Africrypt, there was this story that these chaps had disappeared, which does not seem unusual anymore if one looks at the two previous cases that I've mentioned of BTC Global and Mirror Trading International. But what is of interest is that the Financial Sector Conduct Authority has released a statement. And in their statement regarding Africrypt, it's very similar to what they've said regarding Mirror Trading International and BTC Global, and that is that it was unlawful and akin to what they term a Ponzi scheme. So they say it was their observations concerning Africrypt is that the promises that were made were unrealistic, and that it could have only been an unlawful investment for such promises to have been made in respect of the amounts that were promised by the brothers to the particular investors. When it comes to the crash of one of these schemes, which is normally linked to a Ponzi-like scheme or an affinity scam, you will always see the blame game start. With Africrypt, they first said it was a black swan event that led to them losing the funds. With Mirror Trading International, it was the case of Johnny Steinberg running a fraud and disappearing, and the others left holding the mess purportedly, although our opinion on that differs. And with BTC Global, it was an out-and-out scam where names were fabricated, people were fabricated. But what is also very commonplace with these type of scams is that it's not just the promise of reward. It's the fact that they exceptionally slick operations. And one would see that in each and every instance of there being a crypto scam in South Africa, and there are literally thousands at the moment, we're just talking about the big four at the moment, Africrypt being one of them, is that they would produce statements for clients that showed an incredible return, and everybody wanted to get involved in Bitcoin or trading of Bitcoin on the Forex market because everybody felt they got in maybe a bit too late because they saw Bitcoin a couple of years ago, were very wary to get involved, saw how it skyrocketed in price, and then suddenly wanted to jump in but didn't understand how it quite worked. And this is where the scammers lay in wait. We call them con artists because they're confident and they're convincing. And they were able to come along and say, listen, it's complex. We can train you how to do it yourself, but why don't you just let us trade on your behalf? And they would show on paper incredible returns. But where that money was actually being invested and what it was actually being used for is of what's concern. And what we've noticed in all these cases is that a large portion of the funds were not used for the intended purpose. They were used to fund the lifestyle of the people that were running these particular investment schemes.
So where are you in, as far as the investigation is concerned, your interest in it? Have you been commissioned by some of the defrauded parties to look into this issue? And have you had contact with their supposed lawyers yet?
So the firm that's dealing with the investigation into Africrypt is run by Honeycomb in Cape Town. And this firm has progressed progressively in respect of their findings, and their findings have been shared with the authorities as well as with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. Where we come in is that we've been at the forefront of multiple similar type investigations, not just in the South African jurisdiction, but in the international jurisdiction. One must remember we're living in a digital age, and when funds are traded on the internet in this global village, they can land up in offshore accounts anywhere. If one looks at the case involving Presidium and Imagina, funds have been found as far a place as Cyprus, the Seychelles, Mauritius. When one looks at MTI, the allegations are that the mastermind is currently sitting in Brazil, where he transferred a large portion. So our involvement is guidance. Our involvement is primarily to give the assistance and also to try simplify this for everybody, because we are financial crime investigators at IRS. We are not investigators that specialize specifically in the cyber arena. But for us, a fraud is a fraud, whether it's a fraud from a statutory perspective or if it's a fraud from a common law perspective, the same elements apply in the investigation of a fraud. And that is the deliberate misrepresentation on the part of one party that prejudices another party financially. So what we do is we consolidate the information, we take the information, we try to simplify the information, not just for the investigators, not just for the statutory authorities that may be looking at it, but also for the public at large, so that they can also understand what transpired and why we regard this as a potential financial crime.
So, Chad, as with 1 minute to go, how good or how bad does the scenario look to you as far as the investors are concerned? And have these guys surfaced? We hear that they have commissioned a lawyer and he will be, interacting on their behalf. Where do we stand now?
Where we stand now is that the investigation's at a very sensitive stage. The Financial Sector Conduct Authority is involved. The matter has been referred to the other authorities. What they now need to do is what's called a money threat analysis, which will be conducted via the Financial Intelligence Center, together with the Asset Forfeiture Unit, to see where funds are sitting and what can be clawed back. What will also happen is that the liquidation proceedings will begin, and the liquidators will also try a clawback procedure. So you're going to have two parallel processes, one being criminal, one being civil. So there's still a lot to happen. We're still in the very early stages of such an investigation.
Okay, thank you indeed for your insight. We will be keeping regular contact with you. We need to keep the public informed, very especially those people who have been defrauded. Thanks, and have yourself a good day.
You too.
That was Chad Thomas. He is organized crime expert, CEO of IRS, Forensic Investigations, looking into the scam that has been pulled off by the alleged scam by the Kaji brothers. We will bring you the story as it develops in our future programs, inshallah, so do stay tuned. Of course, it's exactly 10 o'clock, and that means it's time for me to wrap up. Shukran so much for your time this morning. I've really enjoyed all of our interviews. I hope you did too. As always, please, please, please mask up, sanitize, social distance, and also take care on the roads. Till tomorrow morning at the same time. Before I do say my salams, do remember Juz a day, Juz 18 will be read by Hani Ar-Rifai. Stay tuned for that. And as always, a big thank you to the production team, Milazi Boy, Ziad Milazi Boy, and Nasreen Naidu. Shukran for your support. Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz from